Oh, that's easily 100 pounds. Easily 100 pounds, folks. I don't know if you're counting how many I've done lifting this, but this 100-pound, oh.
I'm Erick Baker, and I've lived in Tennessee my entire life. However, for the last decade, touring the world, I've only seen it passing by from a windshield. But finally, Tennessee is calling me back where I belong.
There's a place you've never been that's right where you want to be.
I want to rediscover how great my home state is, and I want you to come with me.
Uncharted.
A few Decembers back, as my wife and I got ready for bed, we heard a noise in the pantry. Not a bang or a crash or a bump in the night, but a scamper. We had a mouse. We looked at each other, smiling sadly, knowing what had to be done. We were on the same page, or so I thought. The next day, before I headed out to the store, my wife briefed me sternly that ordinary traps simply would not do. They're cruel, she explained, before describing an alternative she'd read about a while back. It was large and plastic, what I can only describe as an oversized clothespin. But sure enough, that night around 2 a.m., I heard the telltale snap, and I rolled over to sleep with the assurance that there was one less mouse in the world. But then I heard a clatter and a clank, followed by a bang and a boom. When I arrived on the scene, I found the clothespin trying to escape through the vent. The trap had worked, you see. Well, kind of. What ensued involved being bitten more times than I care to admit, and an eventual bludgeoning I'm not proud of. Up until that point, my knowledge of trapping consisted of television specials on Lewis and Clark and pranks on the neighborhood cat as a young boy. But after failing so miserably with just a mouse, I decided it was time to take trapping to task. Monday through Friday, Casey Mullen is a wildlife officer with the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. But November through February, he's a talented trapper set on teaching his 10 and 14-year-old sons the time-honored task. Selling the pelts they've collected and cured throughout the year to help save for college, the Mullens invited me along to set one of the first trap lines of the season.
You wanna squeeze those jaws down?
Yeah. Whoa.
See, that goes to show, you know, that trap was set for a fox or a coyote.
Okay.
And it caught this rabbit, and we could actually release this rabbit. And
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
fine.
he's ready to go.
Yeah.
So why do you trap?
Well, mainly because we enjoy doing it. It helps the animal populations. It helps keep the predators in check, in control around the farms nowadays. So all these animals that we don't hunt anymore, you know, they need controlling too.
So how did you get into this?
I just see the need for it. It's a tradition that's kind of going away. Personally, it's a way that I can get my boys out into nature and just learn about nature. Trapping teaches you so much more than just going hunting or something like that does. As my boys have grown up, I've taken them out on different farms and different things, and the boys are constantly saying, this is a fox track. You know, look at how this did that, or this animal here, or, you know, this is a dog rather than a coyote because, and they're 10 and 14 years old, and they know more about nature than most adults do.
And I mean, kind of what we've found is the more you know and the more you understand, the more you'll fight to protect it
And appreciate it.
And appreciate it, absolutely, absolutely. That language that you speak, now that, you know, you said they know more about nature than most adults, it's got to make you proud that now that's something that y'all can share and a language y'all can speak to each other.
Oh, it does. I'm very, very proud of the boys.
Well, let's reset this. I can see how the family works. And I'll be the weird step-uncle who's like, hey, where's the beer?
As I stood and watched Casey and his sons move nimbly down the length of their trap line, I began to grasp how much I'd taken trapping for granted. There was an art to all of this, a performance, a presentation, like a magician laying the foundation for his fib.
Of course, trapping season, it's typically wet and really cold. We've learned over the years that peat helps keep a lot of the moisture out of the trap, keeps it from freezing down to the ground. And then the wax dirt over the top of it keeps the dirt on top of the trap, because this wax dirt, we make it and it will not get wet. You know, it's going to rain tonight. In a day or two, it's going to freeze. But if you use that wax dirt, this won't crust over as bad, and the trap's able to come up even when it's frozen.
Okay. What's that?
Epoxy.
Oh. Did you collect that yourself? Now, you have to come back in 24 hours?
We try to check them as soon as possible each day. You don't want it to be in that trap any longer than it has to be there.
All right, well, let's go see if we got some more then. Boy, making sure I don't step on that. Have a trap TV show host.
A lot of guys will come into a big field and you just look around very quickly, and whatever catches your eye typically is going to catch the predator's eye. They're going to go check it out. Coming into a new farm, trial and error. We typically set a lot more traps than we normally would just to see.
Well, I think that's what, I mean, you talk about a field this size, I mean, we're talking 1 footstep.
Right, 1 foot.
Out of this whole, I mean, out of millions of possibilities where that foot can land.
You need to put them in a 5-foot circle or 5-inch circle.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Well, I guess it can be very frustrating though, too, right? All right, well, let's keep moving. What is the best part of this?
The best part is just sharing the time in nature with my family, my boys, you know, because your kids aren't going to be there forever. So spend the time with them when you can. I'd say that's bottom line. That's it. Time outdoors with the family.
Well said. Well said. For me personally, the stately tree stand has always stood as the perfect embodiment of the words sportsman and stealth, providing not only an optical advantage, but a darn good seat to take in a sunrise now and then. But as I considered narrowing the playing field down to not just my scope, but a matter of an inch or two, I quickly saw how the challenge could catch on. Still, as things stood, I wasn't going to catch much. So I set off to start my schooling and see what I could take away from trapping. As any sound sportsman knows, before you can even set off, you need to know how to stay legal. So I started off my trapper training by catching up with Kyle Walling, TWRA Wildlife Officer in Dekalb County. So say that you've gotten a call about some illegal activity. When you pull up, what exactly are you looking for?
Personally, I'm a trapper, so I think I have an advantage looking for people that are trapping illegally, because I know locations that you would look for to set for certain animals and making those sets and what those sets would look like. So a good trapper, you wouldn't find his traps. He wouldn't want everybody to be able to see his traps. So you have to really know what you're looking for to find those traps.
Okay.
They have to have a rubber jaw.
Mm-hmm.
They can't be steel jaw. And that's to protect any kind of domestic animals that you catch, people's dogs or cats. They have to have the tag on there, which will have their name, or you can use, like we said before, their TWRA ID number.
Okay.
People that trap illegally usually don't use the rubber jaw traps because they're way more expensive, and they especially won't want to put their name on their trap if they're trapping illegally. As you can see here, you can't really see anything around. This trapper knows what he's doing. Any person other than a trapper walking up here would not know that that's a scent post set. What they've done is they come in off of this post and probably put gland lure or urine on it. Mm-hmm. And they've got their trap set up out front here.
Okay.
So an animal, a coyote, bobcat, coon, fox, will walk up, smell that urine, and then, like any other dog, it will hike its leg and pee on that post to mark its territory, and then it's going to step on the trap.
Okay.
So if you had your dog, coon dog, just regular old house dog, whatever, step on the trap, and he's caught, and he's going to bounce around, just hang on to him. So you step on it, and then it comes right out. And there you go. There'll be no damage to your dog whatsoever.
Okay. So this one turns out square and legal and good. As you've been checking today, have you come across any illegal or somebody's doing something wrong?
Yes. You wanna
Okay.
Go over and take a look at that.
Let's do it. What am I seeing here?
What we have here is what's called a Conibear 220. It's an instant kill trap.
Okay.
So what they've done is they've set it on this wet weather branch, probably for a raccoon. That's a big no-no in the state of Tennessee because it's an instant kill trap.
Okay.
So anybody's dog or a cat or pet running around, if it sticks its head in that trap, it's dead. So the only time you can use these traps are in water.
Okay.
So they're not going to be able to harm any kind of dogs or cats. So those are mainly otter beaver traps and some smaller ones for muskrats. And you don't want to put a trap out like this that may catch someone's pet.
Well, right on, man. Great talking to you. Thanks
I
for letting us
appreciate it.
ride around with you today.
Thank you,
for
sir.
Sure. Yeah, man. As Kyle explained, taking care and following a few safety standards is about all it takes to trap with integrity. But I could still use a little practice before I put my new know-how to work. So I'm heading to the Hiwassee Wildlife Refuge for some hands-on help. While fur for the sake of fashion led to a collapse in the trade back in the 1980s, the truth of the matter is that fur can make for magnificent material. Providing both unparalleled warmth and heirloom durability, the pelts of certain animals can prove to be a surprisingly sustainable staple that lasts a lifetime. But when it comes to actually setting traps, most folks are fearful of getting ensnared. So the members of the Tennessee Fur Harvesters Association stepped up to host an annual trapper training camp aimed at arming youth with the knowledge on what safe and ethical trapping is all about.
We're here at the Hiwassee Wildlife Refuge in Birchwood, Tennessee, and we're here to introduce trapping to people that have never trapped before or had the trapping experience. We want to educate them on about what trapping is, give them a little history of it, where trapping came from and where it's going in the future.
I've never been around trapping. I don't know anything about it at all.
You know, we get that a lot at different places we go to set up booths and things. You know, we didn't even know people still trapped, or we didn't know that was a legal thing anymore.
Right.
I was like a lot of other people. I thought after the crash of the fur boom in the 80s that trapping had kind of went by the wayside a lot. And we were buying parts for my tractor up in Sweetwater, Tennessee, and there was a flyer on a window up there that said they were having a trapping education or a trapping association meeting that day in Sweetwater. So me and the kids stayed in Sweetwater the rest of the day and went to the meeting. They had demos at the meetings teaching trapping and demonstrations on how to make sets and things. And one of the things that kind of stuck in my mind there was the fellow giving the demo, he would maybe, if he was doing a water trapping demonstration, he would say, "I need you to make believe there's a creek right here."
Yeah.
And he would
imagine this creek,
he would set his traps there on this imaginary creek.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, if I'd never set a trap on a creek before, I don't know if I could imagine that creek and where that is that he's describing that. You know, it'd be nice to have somewhere for people who did not have experience in trapping or couldn't get that imaginary thing to have an actual hands-on place to do it. So we got it going. We had about 75 people the first year, which we were kind of surprised it was that many. And because of the turnout we had and the response, we did it again and again, and this is our 11th time. We have anywhere from 75 to 150 people come. What we try to do is give them a wherewithal of what we do here. And if they never set another trap when they leave here, if they leave here understanding that trappers and trapping associations are ethical sportsmen that respect the animals they harvest and what they do, and for the love of what they do, then we've accomplished our goal.
What's impressed me is respect, the respect for the animals. And you talk about being ethical sportsmen. I mean, I've heard that repeatedly all day long. And so just talk about, specifically the traps.
Well, it's very important. Tennessee was able to make a concession and allow trappers to use a padded jaw trap. The old style traps, the chains on those traps didn't have any give points in them. So an animal would get caught and they would struggle and they would knot that chain up and they would struggle and they would break their leg, actually, is what would happen. So through best management practices, swivel systems were developed, and so when you make that catch on that animal, and he's struggling, he's turning, it turns
It's all
free.
turning with him. Yeah.
He doesn't. That's not an issue. And then you have like this trap has shock springs in it.
Okay.
Those types of things.
At this point, I think it's time I come clean. You see, over the course of my life, the few times I've talked about trapping, I've always envisioned antique bear traps, jaws wide with rust and rage. And sure, once upon a time, if a settler found themselves in grizzly country come spring, something along those lines might have suited their needs. For the trapper of today, on the other hand, the tools of the trade are actually quite safe. From rubber jaws and pet-safe triggers to shock absorbers and swiveling hinges, modern traps are made to hold on, not hurt.
This will smart a little bit, but it does not hurt. This is not a cruel trap.
When I walked away from the trap line this evening, I went with an entirely new understanding of not just trapping, but fur. I learned that synthetic isn't always sustainable, that traps can be tamed, and that catching the attention of school kids can be as simple as a snap. Trapping was quickly taking on a whole new meaning. So as the next cold snap set in, I set off to see if I could catch up with a wild experience or two before season's end. Once upon a time, wrangling wildlife was a way of life. But these days it tends to be more of a tedious task. The truth is, though, most of us will wrestle with unwanted wildlife once or twice. It's just one of those necessary evils in adulthood, like filing your taxes or cleaning out the drain. But for Chris and the team at Wildlife Solutions, catching critters is hardly a chore. It's an opportunity to educate homeowners. In fact, while many professional outfits set up temporary solutions in hopes of securing repeat service calls each season, Chris and his team are focused on getting to the root of the issue, be it access or opportunity.
Absolutely.
Wildlife Solutions, on the job.
Right, baby.
On the
That's right.
job training today.
Customer had called in regards to having some raccoon problems.
Okay.
We had a crawl space that was open. We have since done a temporary repair on it and set traps in accordance.
With education being a big part of what you do, kind of walk me through some of the things that homeowners can do and drop some knowledge on me.
Get rid of the food attractant, number one, which is huge. The exclusion side of it, let's just not have opportune areas for them to gain access to. Get the professional out there if you believe that you're having a problem and get it addressed as quickly as possible.
We've got the tools of the trade here, huh?
This is our Comstock. This is actually a beaver trap. It's built very hardcore. This is a bottom entry trap. So if I'm dealing with a groundhog, I can physically set this on top of his burrow and stake it to the ground, and he's got nowhere to go.
Says, hey,
yeah, if I'm gonna get out of here, I gotta boop. El Pepe Le Pew, he will not spray in this trap.
Gotcha.
Pepe is not down for love no more.
Oh.
He's there.
What do these guys do?
Oh, yeah, the fun
This seems like
snake
something
tongs.
my
That's
wife
right.
needs.
That's right. That's our snake tongue. That goes in unison with our capture bucket over there that I can physically place them in. I did get tagged by a venomous snake here in East Tennessee, so hence the 70-inch snake
Totally.
tongs.
Do we have a 170-inch one?
Rodent rocks. These are very cool. Does
Super
look
cool.
like a stone. You know, in our squirrel traps, yes. I did go ahead and bait that up.
Yeah, what do you got there?
A peanut butter, molasses, and honey, and a little bit of a Slim Jim on top for a protein bait.
You're gonna literally snapping into a Slim Jim there.
Amen.
The first thing I noticed or whatever, I mean, you're saying trap. I don't see poison anywhere.
Poison, we're not a big advocate of due to the secondary poisoning fact. A lot of people do not realize once you do set out poison and a rodent eats it, he's gonna walk out or she's gonna walk out in the wild and be kind of punch drunk, and somebody's domestic animal grabs it and eats this, and then we've secondarily poisoned something.
Right.
So we want to prevent secondary poisoning.
Well, we're hoping that the wildlife aren't watching the show right now and learning all your tricks.
That's right, that's right.
I've managed to catch quite a bit during my trapping training thus far, and I've worked up an appetite in the process. So before we wrap up this wild adventure, I'm heading out to trap a tasty treat or two. I've gotten into quite a bit with the staff and students of UT's Institute of Agriculture. I've joined them for class and headed into the hills for field trips. I've strayed into streams and I've handled hellbenders. We've covered the gamut and had a great time in the process. So it seems about time that we share a meal as well. I'm here at the annual wildlife game dinner. Supposedly they're gonna be cooking up raccoon, beaver, bear, lots of wildlife stuff. So gonna be eating some pretty wild things today. What do we have there?
We got back straps, and we got some duck ears, your lighter meat.
Oh, it brings a tear to my eye seeing all this delicious meat here. Whoa! Is any of that ready? I'm hungry. All the smell of smoke and everything. Look at that. That is a little turkey tots. Holy moly! Can I get a...
Go ahead.
Boy, Chick-fil-A ain't got nothing on this, folks. If you love hamburgers, I'm about to bring you into a meat dream right now. Look at that. I feel like Ronald McDonald right now of deer meat hamburgers.
This game dinner is to promote conservation. We're trying to promote, if you have a regulated system, law-abiding citizens go out, hunt, fish, trap, then that is sustainable. I was telling somebody yesterday that just 2 generations ago, people did this daily, eating opossum and raccoon and stuff growing up. And just two generations from that, majority of really everybody in this country does not know that a beaver is even edible.
So we need more trappers.
More trappers. It's a dying art. Takes a lot of time and dedication. I mean, even hunters and fishermen, it's declining too.
Yeah.
And in the society that we're growing up in now, that people don't have the time or don't make time to get their children out. And that's where it starts.
Students and staff pitch in during the weeks leading up to the event, trapping all the game that's served with the help of local landowners. And at just $10 a head, all of which goes to support student activities, it's no surprise that the event is approaching its 50th anniversary.
We got smoked raccoon, we got grilled raccoon, now we're making raccoon poppers.
Okay.
Just battering it up. These are done, ready to go in the fryer. We'll just move these in here to this batter.
Just reach in there and pop it in there?
That'll work.
Now, we have you to thank for a lot of this, correct?
I guess you could say that,
So you are the trapper.
I am.
Well, what does trapping mean now? I mean, like today, to you?
Conservation is a lot of it. Without trappers, you have this constantly increasing population of these species that the only way that they're going to be managed is through trapping, because you don't have muskrat hunters, otter hunters.
So for somebody, you know, who's hunted, sell me on trapping, why I should get into it.
You can always go out and sit in your deer stand, twiddle your thumbs, drink your coffee, you know, and just wait on something to come. The way I look at it, an animal's home range is different for every species. It passes all these spots every day. And you have one trap with about an inch wide pan that out of all that area that animal travels, he's got to step on that pan.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge, and I like a challenge.
After helping the students set up for the night's festivities, I headed home. Had I stayed much longer, I feared they wouldn't end up having enough treats for everyone else to taste. Yet again, what began as an uncertain adventure ended up bringing me a whole lot of joy. Beaver may not be the next big thing in fast food, but it sure made for some fine eating this afternoon. With every mile that ticks off on my travels, I take something away. Without fail, the highways and back roads of Tennessee have been nothing if not generous, giving me every grain of know-how, heart, and heritage that they have to spare. Looking back, I see now that these lessons have always been mine for the taking, and that rather than not having the opportunity to absorb them, I've overlooked them instead. You see, I thought I knew all I needed to know about things like trapping. In my mind, trapping was something from the last century, something for settlers, but not something for me. What I found instead is that for some, trapping means management, and for others it means money. In fact, it can even mean meat, and speaking from experience, it's actually pretty tasty. Ultimately, trapping can mean any of these things, all of them, or somewhere in between. But regardless, it's another option to get into the outdoors.